This video is going to show you how you can study relationships in SPSS. So going back to the lecture that we've covered here in week 3, the key to good graphics, or at least one good reliable path to a good graph, is to look for relationships. And in this lecture, we've talked about crosstabs, and we've talked about various ways of showing those crosstabs. Question I'd like to address here is how do you do all of these methods in SPSS? I think SPSS has a very good graphic facility that makes it very easy to explore data sets. So it's very worthwhile learning these approaches. Okay, let's go back to the defaulting customer data set. This is that data set from the fitness club. And recall that there was one main dependent variable, which is default status, indicating whether or not someone defaulted within the first 3 months of their membership. If we go over to the variable view, we'll see that this default variable is really a 0-1 variable, where the value 1 indicates a customer defaulted, 0 otherwise. Okay. This is important because recall that the mean of a 0-1 variable is just the percentage of ones. So in this case, the mean of this will be the percent who default. All right, well, let's start out with running a crosstab. So we get crosstabs by going up to Analyze, then Descriptives, then Crosstabs. And I'm going to put default status up in the columns, and let's see how default status relates to the payment type. So I'm going to put payment type into the rows. Now, another thing that you want to do is check on cells. And cells will tell you what sort of percents that you get. So remember, we talked about row percentages, column percentages, and joint probabilities or total percentages. Remember also what I said. You always want to condition on the independent variable. So in this case, the independent variable is the row. Therefore, we want row percentages. Okay, go ahead, continue, and go hit OK. So this is the output that we get. So if we look at what we conclude, someone who is paying with the book method has a 24% chance of defaulting. Someone who pays with the statement has about a 16% chance. If you're using checking EFT, it's 1%. Credit card EFT, it's about 2%. So that's how you run a crosstab in SPSS. Let me show you an alternative way that's also very useful. So you really want to get to know both the crosstab and this other approach. So we could have gone to Analyze and then Compare Means. And let's go check off the first one, which is means. We're going to copy default into the dependent variable box, and we're going to copy the payment type into the independent variable box. Then go hit OK. And so what you'll see is we get the means of default for each of the 4 payment types. And this is saying there's a 24% chance that people with book default, and that's what we got upstairs. 16% chance that people on statement default, 1% checking EFT, 2% credit EFT, 12% overall. So sometimes it's easier to use the crosstab, sometimes it's easier to use compare means, but you should definitely know both methods. Now let's say we wanted to make a graph of this result. Well, we're going to go up to Graph, and then we're going to go up to Legacy Dialogues, and there's a whole series of graphs that we could use on this. So one possibility would be a bar chart. We're fine with a simple bar chart because we only have 2 variables. And we're going to put payment type on the category axis. So that's just going to say what goes on the horizontal axis. Now, if we just hit OK right now, we would get a frequency distribution of payment type. And it would just show the counts of the number of people in each payment type. We don't want that. Instead, we want to do something else. So let's check Other up here, and we're going to bring default in as the variable. So notice what we're going to be doing is plotting the mean of default as the bars and the payment type is the category axis. So let's go see what we get. Takes a second. And this shows you that book has about a 24% chance, statement 16, and so forth. That's how we make a bar chart, but there are other charts available, and so I encourage you to explore these. So another possibility would be to make some line charts with this. So let's just do a simple line chart, and this looks quite a bit like the bar chart one. We'll put default as the other statistic, so we'll compute the mean default status by payment type. So let's go hit OK. And so now you get exactly the same data, but without the bars. So there's a 24% chance that someone on book goes away, 16 statement, and so forth. So I encourage you to try out all of these different graphs. We could do pie charts, but I'd rather not. Okay. That's how we would study a bivariate relationship in SPSS. Let's take this a step further and add a third variable to the mix. So another variable that's quite important is the down payment amount. Now this is a numerical variable. What we're going to do is put this into quartiles. Let's make it categorical, and we'll have 4 levels. So to get quartiles of down payment, we're going to go up to data, or sorry, transform, and then rank cases. Now if I copy down payment in, then go over to rank types, I'm going to uncheck rank, and let's check entiles, and we'll have 4 is fine, so that's quartiles. Go hit continue, and go hit OK. Now what we've done is to create a brand new variable, which is the end down payment. So this could be the quartile number. So someone who put $50 down is in the second quartile, someone who puts $37 down is in the first quartile, and so forth. If we wanted to find out exactly where SPSS made those breaks, we could do that using compare means. So let's go over to compare means. This is a real useful trick that I use all the time for various tasks. I'm going to reset what I have here. Now I'm going to put the percentile group as the independent variable, and we're going to put the down payment amount as the dependent variable. Let's go into options, and we don't especially care about the standard deviation. We do care about the minimum and the maximum. So let's bring those 2 in. Go hit continue, and go hit OK. Now if we look at this, what it says is those in quartile 1 have a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 45. Quartile 2 starts at 45, goes to 100. Quartile 3 goes from 101 up to 175. Quartile 4 is 176 plus. So we could go put those in labels if we wanted. In fact, why don't we do that? So to put that into a label, let's go back to the raw data set. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that I can see what I'm doing. We'll go down to the variable view, and let's go to the value labels. So in the value labels, value 1 is 0 through $45. Value 2 is 45 through 100. Value 3 is 101 through 175. And 4 is 176 plus. So now we have some meaningful labels. Go ahead OK. So the question is, how does default status depend on these 2 variables simultaneously? You can answer that question using the graphic feature in SPSS. So let's go back to graphs, go back to legacy dialogues, and let's try a bar chart. Start now with a simple bar chart, and what you'll notice is that there are some panel boxes. What these panel boxes do is they replicate a graph by another variable. So Let's get the payment type variable out of the category, and I'm going to put it into the column box. Then we'll put the percentile group into the category axis, the percentile group of down payment. Now let's go hit OK. So what you'll see is that those panel boxes ask SPSS to create what Tufte calls small multiples. You get a different bar chart for each of the payment types. That's what we put in the panel box. And then we have the down payment amount on the horizontal axis. So you can see that if you put a small amount down and you have book or statement, you're in trouble. If you put a large amount down, you're never in trouble. If you use EFT, you're never in trouble. There's a lot of other ways that we could tell this story, though. So let's go back and we'll go to the bar graph option again. And instead of using a simple bar chart, we could use a clustered bar chart. So let's try that. The menu is very similar. So we're going to stick the default status as the bar. So we want the mean default status up there. And then let's put the percentile group as the category axis. And we'll put the payment type as the cluster variable. So when you do this, what you'll see is a single bar graph. Now, the cluster variable is going to be encoded using color. So blue is book, green is statement, and so forth. So I would say that this is a little bit easier to interpret because the bars are closer together. Of course, if you print this on a black and white printer, you lose the ability to decode those bars. The features are very similar for the line graph. So if we went to simple, we could put it as a small multiple. If we do a multiple one, again, let's just see what we get. I'm going to stick default status in up at the bars. We'll put payment type across the categories. Oopsie, now let's put that as define the lines by this time. And we'll put the percentile group for down payment as the category axis. So you get exactly the same story. I think this is much cleaner though. Again, blue's book, green statement, and you have the down payment amount. And I think that's a fairly good graph. We could carry on. So if we wanted to do a third variable, let's say we wanted to do gender as well. So if we really wanted to do gender, then let's go back to line graph. Let's do a multiple line graph. The way I could bring gender in is to drop it in, let's put it in the column variable. And so by doing this, what we'll get is a separate line graph for each gender. I didn't put my labels in for gender. What you'll see though is that the graphs are nearly identical, and what that means is gender really doesn't have much of an effect. So the main things that are affecting default status are the payment type and the down payment amount. Okay, so that gives you a quick tour. I really encourage you to try a lot of these different graphical options and not be afraid to break SPSS. You're not going to break it.